When the wind blows cold on the shores of Lake Erie, the Queen City moans her sad, lonely song. Her streets are empty, but for handfuls of scattered souls, scurrying to escape the chill. Most are gathered at the warm watering holes that garnish every street corner, offering respite for the weary. The air hangs thick and is warmed by the hot takes that resound from the wooden walls. We find ourselves on the doorstep of such a place, with the champions of mediocrity about to set off on another long-winded journey. The windows are already beginning to fog with the balmy bloviations. As the door creaks open, a rush of warm air ushers the velvet voices of the 716 Sports Podcast.
Welcome back. Another 716 Sports Podcast. Another Sunday has come and gone, along with another Bills loss. 0-2 in the season with the loss to the Los Angeles Chargers. 31-20.
It's the first time in this for the podcast we've edited anything in post because Justin called them San Diego and we had to retake it.
Does that count as editing or just starting over?
That was a start over.
That's
not
was a
close.
redo.
Okay,
Close
let me
enough to
rephrase it. It's the closest we've ever come to editing this podcast. 716 Sports Podcast. Happy to have you.
That was like us playing pickup basketball. I was like, you didn't check it, man. You got to check the ball before we could do it. You can't just throw the ball out.
Yeah, that's true. Usually when we fuck up, we're like 35 minutes in and we
Yeah.
just keep on going.
And we just say, well,
Let's roll with it.
But no, we had a teaching moment. And the teaching moment was the difference between the cities of San Diego and Los Angeles.
I forget, man.
Now we're all set. Thank you, buddy. You got a lot on your mind right now, so it's all good.
Yeah, okay. I'll take
We'll
that.
talk about that later.
I'll take that.
We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
It didn't go very well for the Bills, did it?
Didn't go very well, no.
No, in the grand scheme of things, it almost feels like it went okay because of the first 6 quarters of football this season were just so jarring, where we were outscored by such a margin. We got run out of the building in Baltimore last week. We got run out of our own building in the first half, and after a second half where you figure, maybe the Chargers took their foot off the gas a little bit, we were the beneficiaries of a rule I did not know was a thing. We were the better team for the vast majority, at least on the scoreboard, and some facets of the second half yesterday.
So many fun, unique things to this game. People retiring at halftime. People getting hit without a helmet.
Over under 1.5 players knew that was a rule.
No, none. Under. Because I don't think nobody knew what was going on that play. Right?
Yeah, like every single
It
Charger was
wasn't like-
signaling for a safety.
We weren't getting any guidance on it.
There's no way that Jones tries to turn the corner with the football without a helmet if he knows he can just go down for a touchback.
Right.
Yeah, right.
I don't think that's something that's rehearsed or drilled into players.
I was honestly amazed the on-field official knew that was a rule.
Thank God he did.
I just think Danny Crossman's a terrible coach.
Well, the special teams have left a little bit to be desired.
Bobby
so
April
far.
knew that was a rule.
Bobby April, that was, yeah. I think he had that tattooed on his
The old
arm.
fake muff.
Ever since Crossman's been here, we've been one of the worst special teams units in
Nice.
the league. In terms of discipline and penalties and knowledge of penalties.
Yeah.
Every punt is a block in the back by the Bills.
They get penalized
You know
a
what he
lot.
says? Don't block till you can see the white and the number.
And then go ahead and just give him a firm shove, preferably as long as...
And he must come cheap because I don't know how he keeps his job. He must got some dirt in somebody. In the
Yeah,
organization.
Well, there's a lot of dead
far
cap
down the
space.
food chain of people I'm curious about right now.
I'll take that.
So
We all have a list. We've created a list of things that we're just going to talk and bitch about tonight. I think it's really... We got to get this off our chest. The final score kind of hides the fact that this game was 20-6 at half.
it was never close.
I wouldn't call this a competitive game. The Bills made it close enough in the fourth quarter, but
to make it look better.
realistically, it was kind of window
It's
dressing.
about as one-sided as a 2-score final score could ever be.
So we all got a topic we want to talk about. What's on your mind, Bill? Briefly.
No, that's fine. I want to talk about the lack thereof of skill position players on the offensive side and go on about that.
What's on your mind today, Jeff?
The drawbacks of being forced to start a rookie quarterback.
Mike?
How bad the offensive line is and how nothing's going to happen until it's improved.
I just kind of want to talk a little bit about Sean McDermott taking over the second half play calling on defense. So who wants to start?
I'll jump in here. So let's talk about what we saw from the Bills' skill positions yesterday. it continues to be difficult sledding for LaShawn McCoy. Again, under 10 rushes. Team is not even there. He ends up being injured in some way with some sort of rib injury. It sounds like
fractured rib cartilage.
Fractured rib cartilage. We're recording on Monday night. As of now, it is assumed that he will miss the Vikings game, but will probably be back for the Packers game.
Did you guys see how that happened?
I don't remember
Did
specifically.
they have a guy just land on him?
Yeah, one of the offensive linemen just landed hard right on him.
So that's symbolic. But yeah, just LaShawn McCoy is, even at his advanced age for his position, seems to be so clearly the best thing that they have on this team as far as skill position players go. And the Chargers did a really nice job of locking him up. He had a long rush of 27 yards. If you take that away, he had 8 rushes for 12 yards. I mean, there's nothing going on in this running game right now. And I think what gets frustrating is, and Mike, I know you'll speak to it a little bit about the offensive line, but at some point you got to also be able to make something happen. And right now I think that LaShawn McCoy is just sort of, he's fallen maybe that quarter step, half step back, and that's going to prevent him from being able to spring anything really big. Now, receiving wise, it was kind of more of the same. Zay Jones had his big moment, and that came in the underthrown completion there where they went at least down the field by Allen. So that was nice to see them at least make an attempt with going with something there. Otherwise, just these skill position players, there's just nothing there. Kelvin Benjamin feels like just a complete waste of a draft pick. I think I'd rather have that 3rd round pick back at this point. It's not like he's done nothing in his Bills tenure. His best play was a touchdown that should have been a touchdown that was rolled in incompletion last year in New England. Other than that, think of one memorable play that guy's made. I mean, I'm not asking for him to be Michael Thomas out there, but I'm also asking for the guy to find a way to be able to catch the ball 5 or 6 times. If you're going to be number 1 target on a team, then you gotta do something. And he hasn't been able to put it together this season. The tight ends, I've just sort of given up on the tight end position. It offers itself being a dynamic part of an offense. However, this year and every other year, I mean, God, where are we going back to? Pete Metzelaars, the days where the Bills used the tight end target. Reamersma and Metzelaars were kind of like the guys. You look at what we got right now, it's not there. It's really frustrating. And I don't know, Clay, 2 catches, it's just, you're just not getting it. Logan Thomas had 1 as well, and Kroom had 2. It's a black hole right now. I don't know what else to do. So, Zay ends up leading the team in catches and yards, or rather in yards, because of that big catch for 57. His other catch was 1 for 6. Benjamin, 2 catches for under 20 yards. I mean, he did have the touchdown, but yeah, man, it's not good. The complete lack of any sort of weapon that can be usable for this team is it's disheartening, and it's going to ultimately, I think, hurt the development of Josh Allen, which we can segue, Jeff, to what you want to talk about. But man, it's tough right now for them.
Yeah. So I think a lot of the storylines going in, and probably rightfully so, from a Bills fan perspective, were how is Josh Allen going to perform? It's the most notable quarterback pick since the last most notable Bills quarterback pick in the 1st round. And I think you can say it was kind of a mixed bag for Allen. He had flashes. He was mobile when he had to be. He did make that one nice downfield throw, a little bit underthrown, but got it 57 yards downfield to Zay Jones, which is something we haven't seen in Buffalo football in a few years.
Yeah, you think of all the pop gun arm guys that have played. Taylor almost could get it there, but not quite to that extent, I don't think. And then, you're never going to see a guy like Trent Edwards or Ryan Fitzpatrick be able to throw the ball like that.
I don't know. Fitzpatrick might be
well, he may be
might have found it.
the fountain of youth at age 37.
I mean, if anywhere, it will be in Florida. That's where Ponce
would
de
be.
Leon went looking for it.
Yeah. Shout out to Ponce de Leon.
Big explorer.
Great guy. Pretty cool.
Did a lot.
Yeah.
Fight and land. So with putting Josh Allen in, you accept a certain degree of things not being as good as they could be. Now I realize, as Bill mentioned, the skill position players around him, not exactly top tier. He's not walking into Green Bay or Minnesota tomorrow and walking away with Thielen and Diggs as his top 2 targets. He's not behind a top offensive line, as Mike will mention here in a moment. But there's things that you're going to see. He had the most time out of every quarterback in the NFL yesterday in the pocket average per pass. And on how many of those plays was he having happy feet? And he's going to learn, if he gets the time to learn and doesn't get drilled by the Vikings defense next week, just how much time he has.
He ended up running the ball 8 times, or he had 8 official attempts
And
yesterday.
a few of those were designed, but
Yeah.
a few of those were not.
No, and there did seem to be a couple plays. Like, there were a couple, read options that actually, which wasn't something that I was expecting out of him, that he looked comfortable running, and it was something that you wish maybe they'd do a little bit more of.
Shout out to trading the most mobile quarterback in Bill's history before instituting the read option. Big ups.
Yeah.
And there was a few plays where nothing he could do. A few plays, though, where I remember one sack right after the big pass to Zay Jones. He gets blitzed off the left side and gets absolutely mauled. 4 guys lined up to blitz from the left side of the line against only 3 linemen, with the running back split out wide and 4 wide receivers to the right.
Yeah.
A veteran quarterback is going to see that, realize he has to change something, motion somebody in, call a timeout, get it quickly out of his hand. But with a rookie quarterback, his first time in a real full-speed NFL game, doesn't see it. What could have been a touchdown drive turns into a field goal drive. And it's just going to be part of the growing pains with Josh Allen, is that with the big arm, we're just going to have to accept that this season we're going to see a lot of frustrating plays. We're going to look back on the tape and wonder how we didn't see something that we're used to top-flight quarterbacks seeing. And just with the hope that as he goes through this season, he will learn to read things like that.
How many times did you hear Steve Berline say, Allen just missed the blitz there?
He said it a lot more than I thought was fair.
Missed a lot of blitzes.
He missed a few, but he was blaming him for the
Untouched.
he was blaming him for Derwin James getting him on the play action pass.
And that one's I think that's the play where Clay didn't even turn around or recognize it's probably a hot route.
he
Should have ran
got
there.
an Olay from someone.
Allen was sacked on a running attempt yesterday. The offensive line was struggling again, as we know that. But part of, I think Berline's thing is, it was almost like on that one play that it's not that you're going untouched. I think it's that there was almost like no awareness and no recognition that it was even a chance at that point. And I think that is part of it. Is instinctually Allen looks slow right now. And look, I'm not...
He has to learn how to read those things at full speed.
Yeah.
Right, and, with all due respect to Utah State and San Jose State, they probably weren't running that in the Mountain West.
Aggies.
Right, like where they are, and against a very talented defensive unit in what the Chargers bring. So, hopefully there's room for growth with that. But
You can see the kid has all the talent in the world. He just needs to put together the mental side of it.
Well, he seems
it's
to have the mental
consistency.
makeup, though. The mental toughness to not let everything get him down. And yesterday's game would have been a situation where somebody of lesser mental fortitude would have just hung their head and been out of it.
I loved him on the sideline talking to his teammates after the score.
Amazing.
And I usually don't get sucked up into that kind of stuff, but
no, he was fired up.
it was a game that they were basically out of at that point. It was a fairly meaningless score, and he was still on the sideline pumping up his teammates. I think that shows that whether he'll ever achieve being a true franchise quarterback, that remains to be seen. We're a long ways away from writing the conclusion to that hypothesis, but he's at least got the mental makeup that would allow him to achieve success.
I just hope they give him a time to develop.
Absolutely.
At least 2 seasons. Not a season. No, you shouldn't be able to know. You should be able to tell if he can play or not by now.
Yeah,
Let him play.
Exactly.
A lot of
He was a
snaps.
project quarterback coming in. He's the type of quarterback that ideally doesn't start this season, doesn't play the season, barring lots of injuries or things go crazy. Ideally, a guy with his raw talent coming in has a year to learn. So I don't even want to begin judging him for better or for worse, really, until next season. I'm just going to have to talk about it for 15 weeks and hope I get something out of it.
Well, things didn't go crazy this year. They went stupid in the front office.
And we'll get into that a lot later, I'm sure. Mike, if you wanted to take over and kind of wrap up the offense here and talk about the offensive line.
Well, part of the thing that I'm seeing, and it connects with Allen, it connects with the skills positions too, is the offensive line is bringing nothing to the table. I mean, people are saying the stats are there that say that Allen does have the most time to drop back and pass. But the thing is, I was at the game yesterday and looking at it, it's like he may have had time, but the pocket really wasn't the greatest. It didn't look like it was something he could just step up in and be comfortable in while he technically had time. He just didn't have any room to be comfortable. Also, the running game is not going to get anywhere if the offensive line can't even battle to a draw on the offensive line. And when I say they battle to a draw, that means you got a hat on a hat. You got one guy blocking one guy. You got everybody accounted for. Even if you don't get a push, McCoy and Ivory and Murphy can at least usually get you a few yards as long as they have the ability to get somewhere. But when you're missing blocks and people are running free that shouldn't be running free, they're not going to get anywhere. And right now, I think the Bills need to start off with the running game, establish that, then open up with the passing game. The problem is Miller is a sieve. We all know what Jordan Mills is. Dawkins does not look like the player he was last year. DeCoste, we know what he is. I mean, there's nothing. I thought Dawkins was the only one that wasn't a question mark going into this year, and
Dawkins is what made Cordy Glenn expendable.
Yeah,
right. I mean, they traded away
exactly
their starting left
and
tackle.
I thought Dawkins was going to be the one that they could say, okay, he's at least. I mean, I'm not going to say he's a stud left tackle and he's going to be a franchise left tackle and a Hall of Famer or anything. Not the next Anthony Munoz or anything, but I thought he would at least be solid, and he's not playing well. And this is where nothing is getting off the ground. This group of five is bringing nothing to the table, and it's shutting anything else this team can do down.
How about the play when the entire offense moved, but Ryan Gordon snapped the ball?
You're saying the center should know the snap count?
Yeah.
Is that what you're implying?
There were a few times it looked like the
Might
whole
help.
offense didn't even know the play.
The play with Roy was just that's like college shit, man.
And don't forget, he's the better of the two centers we have.
Oh god.
Then he didn't do enough damage to the offense. Then he had to fall on Shade McCoy and crack his ribs.
I mean, this is why
He wants to be a running back.
you look at when the 49ers under Jim Harbaugh, that first or second draft that they took like 2 guards in the first round, and this is why, because I think Mike's right. So much of this flows out of just not being able to have time, not being able to have a clean pocket, not being able to establish any sort of running game to complement the passing game.
And they fashion themselves as a running-based team.
Yeah, I think they are.
They try to be.
And the scary thing is the Bills gave up 4 sacks yesterday. Obviously, not all of them are on the offensive line, like James coming off free. I mean, you usually don't account for your free safety coming in, and you don't account for them with linemen. But
Yeah, you're talking about 14 combined rushes by the running backs yesterday.
At what point
on a running team, supposedly.
do you think you see changes this week? Like put Bodine in and then put Wyatt Teller in
I
somewhere?
mean, I think they have to just try something. It's going to be like watching the Sabres try and put together a fourth line. Like, just throw bodies out there and see if something can spark and something can get going.
Adam Mayer.
But until this offensive line comes together and offers something for the run, especially the running backs to work with, this team isn't going anywhere.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to do, because,
and it's not like you can pick somebody up this week and throw them in there and say, okay, here's our offense, go play.
Yeah. Well, we got to have 4 defensive tackles on the active roster.
Yeah, and 4 defensive backs, which I'm not sure we have 4 cornerbacks right now, with Davis and the injury statuses of both Teron Johnson and Phillip Gaines. We're hitting the bottom of the barrel there.
Are they active? I don't think they're.
I mean, it's hard to see what they'll be at the end of the week, but they were both questionable
right.
as of today, which I believe is their off day.
Right.
So.
Must be a Gaines thing, getting hurt. EJ Gaines last year. Phillip Gaines this year. Must be a Gaines thing.
People love that name. Great name.
Gaines.
Sounds strong.
Gaines
Yeah.
28.
Hard consonant sound followed by two vowels making one long vowel sound. It's really...
Imagine going into a coma at the end of last season, not knowing that EJ Gaines didn't re-sign, waking up this season to watch the game on Sunday, and being super confused about how he lost all talent.
That's a super specific coma you're talking about.
It's very specific, Colin.
Odds are that out of all the billions of people on the earth, that one person had the chance. He may not have been a Bills fan, but
very
one person
possible.
had that chance.
They may have like a Bills win 4 Super Bowls in a row T-shirt or something like that, perhaps.
Well, speaking of defense,
Yeah, something happened.
man. So obviously they had the first drive. It was good. It was 3 and out, right? It was a 3 and out.
Yeah.
And you're watching the game and think, okay, finally they say they figured out the defense. They made some nice game plan. They figured it out. Okay. Then they went 4 touchdowns in a row. With that one touchdown, Gordon scored 20 yards out untouched. Man, that play was ridiculous. There's like
Literally nobody on the left
it's like
side.
there
of
was
the field.
men playing against a high school team.
Yeah.
Like there was almost no resistance at all in that play, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then that was terrifying to watch. Like they couldn't stop the Chargers at all. But then halftime came, second half came, and it was like a whole different looking defense. I don't know if they were playing better. They seemed more motivated maybe, but they just looked better instantly. But then you learned after the game that Sean McDermott took over play calling.
Well, there was a report during the game that it looked like McDermott had the play sheet in his hands or on his hip or something like that, which we know is a big change. And Leslie Frazier has been calling for a year and 2 games, year and a game and a half, which is an official designation now in the NFL playbook. You can call it a half game. It looked better.
So there was a whole different look at defense. There was 3 second half points. Do you think it was the spark that McDermott was looking for, or do you think it was Leslie Frazier just losing touch with his defense, or just the team just playing better in the second half?
I think it's 3, maybe 4 things kind of rolled into one. There's the head coach takes over the play sheet, walks into the locker room, and tells the defense they're going to shape up, and he's holding the play sheet. Players wanting to get their act together, play for the coach. It is a Chargers team that ran a very modified version of their offense without their best player for the majority of the second half, with Melvin Gordon banged up.
Yeah.
It is a team that literally had a player walk out in front of their faces and quit the team, and probably wanted to go back on the field and prove that they were worth something.
I think a lot of the guys didn't know till after the game, though, which sounds like.
I mean, Zoe said he sounded like they were told that he had quit, that he took himself off the field, and that he retired. I think a lot of them knew while the game was still happening.
Yeah. That's interesting.
They would have seen him not on the sidelines, not injured.
Yeah, you were.
He theoretically was just packing his shit at halftime.
Kyle Williams didn't know till after the game.
Yards per pass tweeted out that tweet that said like, this happened an hour before this guy retired, and it's Davis making that stop on one of the first drives of the game.
Like, looks pumped.
Yeah, it's so hard with the Davis thing, man. I mean, let's finish up on the defense
keep going,
here
Justin.
first, and then but
I didn't have really much more to say, but
how
about how well Trey White played? You didn't hear his name at all yesterday.
So what did Keenan Allen end up with yesterday? I mean,
next to nothing.
6 for 67.
Which
that's
look, if
amazing.
If Mike Williams is going to be the one that's going to hurt you, or
Tyrell Williams,
whatever. Keenan Allen's really good, and he is going to have many games of higher production than 6 for 67, and also his long was only 16. I mean, Allen,
everything in front of him.
Allen's one of the top when healthy, and he's only had 2 or 3 actually healthy seasons. But the guy is I think he's a top 10 to 12 wide receiver in the game, and Rivers looks for him a lot. So to me, Tre'Davious White, far and away right now the best player on that defense. And look, there's not much else to hope on, but if he can lock down the best receiver week in and week out on all these teams, then they're going to face next week it's going to be tough because the Vikings have 2 wide receivers that are actually number 1. But, when he's going up against, a Devontae Adams coming up, or Corey Davis, or whoever else down the line, hey, at least there's one guy that you can rely on that you feel like they're going to have to really do something special to beat him.
I also think people got to be way more patient with Edmonds. Dude's 20 years old.
He's raw.
Second game.
20 years old. He's a super athlete.
Did not call the defense of Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Didn't do it. This is brand new for him, man. They're throwing him into the fire like they're doing with Josh Allen on the quarterback of the offensive side.
Yeah, it's a second game, and middle linebacker is the most important position on defense. It's the quarterback of the defense. You need to give the young guys some time.
And he's shown flashes, too. I thought he had some really good plays against Baltimore. I didn't notice him as much yesterday in the Chargers game, but there was a lot there, and he's younger even than a lot of the guys who came out in that draft class.
I heard a WGR host this morning talking about Edmonds and thinking he's too big for his own good and can't figure out how to move in his body, or he's like tearing him apart for that. I was like,
the
dumbest thing I've
average
ever
radio
heard.
host with
It's
a
the dumbest thing
body
I've
for
ever heard.
radio.
The
knows
guy's
about
a
moving as a
super
professional athlete.
freak athlete. You can see it.
Self-targeting.
He's just got to get used to the NFL game. It's a lot different even than major college football. Going from these guys and these top players in college are playing maybe a guy they play every one out of every 10 guys that they play in college are the top 1 out of every 10 is the ones going to the NFL.
Right.
I mean, it's an
the level of
adjustment.
talent is definitely a lot more significant.
I'm not worried about Edmonds. I mean, he looks like he's promising, and I think they can build around him for years to come. He just needs to get used to the NFL game.
If you want to worry a bit, just talk about Starla Tulare and the other acquisitions.
Not his role, though.
He's not doing anything. He's
We're
not a single tackle.
We're gonna get. That's not his role, though. He's a 3-4 nose tackle at heart.
Is he eating blocks? I don't see that happening either.
I mean, how
We're
often
getting
do we sit
gashed.
down and watch people?
We're getting gashed
eat
for
blocks?
running it here.
They were not getting gashed that bad compared to last
Austin
season.
Eckler?
Yeah, to
Those
back
are-
up
those are
70 yards.
Yeah, those were all outside carries, though. That's not on the nose tackle. I don't think Latulele is the problem. I think evaluating
I was
defensive
trying to
tackles is
segue
basically
into questionable
impossible.
acquisitions that we talked about earlier.
We can. Sorry, I just wanted to go to bat for the one guy I thought is getting a bum rap out of this whole group. The rest of them
Mkhitaryan.
suck shit, but the rest of it, he's been fine. On that note, Pat Moran has a contribution this week about players who, and I quote myself, suck shit.
What's up? Pat Moran here from the Moran Analytics Podcast, teaming up with the guys from the 716 Sports Podcast to bring you the PAT with Pat, a little segment I'm doing each week during Bills season, giving a take on something from the last game, in this case, a 31-20 home opening loss to the Chargers in Josh Allen's first career start. Guys, the term trust the process is already getting on my final nerve. Seeing Josh Allen struggle, seeing Tremaine Edmonds struggle, watching kids like Marcus Murphy muff punts or Deion Dawkins whiff on blocks, that's part of trusting the process. Young kids earning their way, and I'm fine with all that. But Brandon Beane evaluating this roster in the offseason and going out and signing veteran scrubs like Newhouse and Bodine, paying big money to star Lodele, who has as many tackles so far this season as you and I do. Can't even pronounce the guy's last name. That's how rare it is to hear him on TV. And going out and signing guys like Curley and Davis, who couldn't even last 2 full games on this team. That's not trusting any process, man. That's just straight up shitty-ass roster management. That's all that is. It's only 2 games into 2018, and many Bills fans are already furious. Can you really blame them, though? I mean, for 17 years, the Bills failed to make the playoffs, and for most of those years, Bills fans who've been through endless suffering, they dreamed of the day that the drought would come to an end. That happened on New Year's Eve. But in their worst nightmares, they probably never envisioned that the joy of making the playoffs one season would be followed by perhaps the least talented roster in franchise history the very next season. So, yeah, trusting the process, it kind of sucks right now. And I don't think it's any process to sign scrubby veterans who bring nothing to a team. Again, that's not process. That's just bad personnel decisions and nothing else. And don't let the Bills sell you on anything less. All right. After you're done listening to this episode, head over to the Moran Analytics Podcast. I have an interview with the newest feature writer at the Buffalo News, Jason Wolf, as well as a full breakdown of the Bills game, plus UB and Sabres talk during my Pat with Puck segment. Enjoy the rest of the 716 Sports Podcast. See you next week.
And thanks again to our friend Pat Moran for joining us here with the PAT with Pat. Check out Pat on the Moranalytics podcast as well on social media. And Pat raises some points and talks about some players that I think a lot of Bills fans are thinking about and a lot of decisions that Bills fans have been thinking about and talking about here this week. We talk about a lot of positions here, and we already have here tonight, guys, where the Bills seem to have a lack of depth compared to the other teams that they're competing with, whether it's wide receiver, whether it's the offensive line, whether it's the defensive secondary. And these aren't things that just happen. They didn't just walk out on the field on Sunday and have 15 players walk off on IR. There's a lot of personnel moves, not just ones made this year, not just ones made this offseason, but a series of moves made since the regime change to Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott that have led to a position where I think is unenviable to try to dig themselves out of. And with each passing week, it seems like we get deeper and deeper in a hole.
Right now, it just sort of feels like it is like a bottomless pit. I wish that there was a little bit more transparency from the coaching staff in the sense that they would just say that this, if you say this will be a rebuilding year or this is a multi-year rebuild, then it doesn't feel like as disappointing as it has been, because with all these moves that were made last year and then you still go 9-7 and make the playoffs, albeit luckily, it felt like, okay, well then maybe there is something to this and maybe you're just weeding out the bad apples and everything like that. And then all these questionable personnel decisions. I mean, just in this week, you cut arguably your thinnest position down by one when you release Jeremy Curley because you want a fourth defensive tackle. Then
because it's going to be hot out.
Because they cut the other defensive tackle to sign a backup pass rusher.
And then your cornerback decides to retire during halftime. And because of that, then out of nowhere, you now have a roster spot. Now, they are getting that roster spot back. We have learned today that the Bills do get that roster spot back free of charge.
I wonder what Adolphus Washington's doing.
So, but you just... Right. So you've cut Adolphus Washington. You cut Jeremy Curley, but you want active depth at said position of defensive line or defensive tackle.
Couldn't they just cut out the middleman and cut Jeremy Curley to sign a defensive end? Instead of cutting the defensive tackle to sign the defensive end, then cutting the wide receiver to sign the defensive tackle.
These chains, I'm so confused by what they're saying, and now I don't trust them when they're telling me things. That's a big part of this now. There are fans that do not trust this coaching staff and this general manager because everything they only know how to talk in cliches and
trust the process.
They don't talk to us like real humans.
Right.
So I think you're dumb.
That's a whole different story. But
well, if you were expecting playoffs, then they really think you're dumb.
Well, I wasn't expecting playoffs.
No, none of us here did.
No, but I wasn't. I think, and of course, there's always going to be fans that are going to be like, "Oh, 16-0 Super Bowl down in Delaware." Like, all right, cool, but that isn't. There was higher expectations than what we've gotten from this team so far, I think.
Bill, if I could go back to something you mentioned a few moments ago, you said high character guys as a phrase in your spiel there.
Yeah.
So we're being led to believe as part of this player selection process, which I think can be dissected bit by bit, but one of the overarching themes is that the attempt of this regime is to bring in players who bring the right mindset, both on and off the field, to the Buffalo Bills. And their theory is that by doing so, they may be slightly less physically talented, maybe, in raw talent than some other teams, but that they will make up for it because that team will play harder, they'll play together, and that they won't make dumb mistakes.
And I think that goes back still to what the previous regime did and all the undisciplined play and players that we saw under Rex Ryan.
Right. But then there's also part of that theory, we're led to believe then that Vontae Davis was a high-character guy when he was brought in, who quit on his teammates in the middle of a football game, literally at halftime, walked out, didn't even go back to the sideline in street clothes and answer the media, just left, went home. We're supposed to believe that Anquan Bolden was a high-character guy who came here, saw what was going on, probably retired, and then tried to unretire to join the Patriots and try to win a Super Bowl. We're supposed to believe that all these guys who they bring in, because they are letting talent go, whether it's letting E.J. Gaines walk and not offer him, you let Sammy go, you let Robert Woods go, You trade Ronald Darby last season. Guys who were the cornerstones, the high talent players, albeit of a previous regime, and they've proven they don't want previous regime guys here. We're led to believe that they are bringing new guys in who are going to replace them, who are going to be able to fill a void.
But the guys
at any of those positions, have they filled the talent void that they created?
No, but the guys you mentioned also didn't hear about them being problems in the locker room. You didn't hear them being problems in the community. So it's just we need to get rid of guys from the previous regime.
And I would argue that Richie Incognito has been an issue with the community.
Richie Incognito,
he left on his own terms.
He did leave on his own terms.
But you didn't really hear anything about Watkins being a problem. You didn't hear anything about Gaines being a problem or Darby or
Raglan, any of those guys.
Yeah. Right. Well, Raglan just didn't fit
is
the
just
scheme.
your friendly neighborhood cult member. Other than that, he's just totally fine.
Yeah.
Totally forgot
just
about
a
that.
little.
Hey, that was weird, right?
That's still a thing for the record. It's not gone away.
Cults.
Cults.
Pretty interesting.
Pretty great.
A lot to go on with there.
So if the Bills keep Watkins and Woods,
Yep.
how do you think the receiver position stacks up compared to what it is now? Do you think it improves the situation?
They could theoretically pay Watkins and Woods and still have Zay Jones.
Or they could have...
Or they'd have one of Watkins or Woods.
I would not want to pay Zay Watkins $16 million, though.
Or
Neither.
they could have...
We're going to laugh when they pay Kelvin Benjamin $16 million this offseason.
They're not keeping
I think
Benjamin.
he's good as gone after this.
But then what about... You also... Don't forget Marquise Goodwin and Chris Hogan, too. Like, they I think they wanted to keep Chris Hogan, but they couldn't because of the salary cap position. Right?
Well, that's more understandable. Like, losing out on a player who's an up-and-coming player who's earned himself more money is one thing. Losing out on a player because you went out and got your guy who was Jeremy Curley, and then you probably didn't even put an offer in for Josh Gordon, even though they probably wouldn't have got him anyway because Josh Gordon does the weed.
He does. Smokes the marijuana.
Does the devil's
But
lettuce.
at the time, Hogan would have been an overpaid third receiver.
I
Or
think
at least seen as an overpaid third receiver.
Yeah. Well, he probably would have been.
you could probably see chalk up Goodwin and Watkins being gone because just availability reasons. They're never on the field. And Goodwin, probably the only track star that actually ball pretty well.
Yeah. And Goodwin
He's actually
was
a
hurt
good player.
a lot
but
of
he's
his
just hurt
time,
all
too.
the time.
You know what?
Goodwin's missed like one game since he left.
You know what? I'd be excited to see Goodwin with Josh Allen.
Do you wonder if the Bills' medical staff is
Absolute dog shit. Yes, I do.
I feel
see
like
that.
it's constantly an issue for
I see-
players with nagging injuries. And
I think they're better now than they've been in the past, though. You don't see all the hamstring injuries. You don't see the stupid muscle pulls you used to see.
yeah,
No one is slipping on rubber mats leaving the training facility.
I think they're better than they've been. I mean, they went to training camp almost with no injuries. And in the past, there's there was a laundry list. And it's always this muscle pulls and shit like that.
Yeah.
I think-
It's one thing to go in a game and crack your ribs because someone falls on you. That's
well,
expected.
that's
It's another thing to
unavoidable.
pull a hamstring trying to run a 5-yard out all the time.
Sure. Oh God, it happened again.
I mean, I don't think they're bad. They point out.
Well, wasn't part of the whole thing, and maybe I'm misremembering this, that wasn't there a training staff that was specifically brought in by someone in leadership at one point that turned out to be a terrible, terrible decision?
I think it was Rex's regime. I think.
Oh, we'll have to go back into the archives.
This is sticking
check
on
that
my head
out
somewhere.
I don't doubt it. I mean, people think you don't have to go like full Chip Kelly and put heart monitors on everybody and make sure that they're only drinking nutritional supplements and everything like that. Like, you have to treat them like like humans.
That's the theory.
But let's see. But they also need to. It felt like they had fallen behind. Maybe things will be better now. I don't know.
Don't talk about Josh. Just a little bit off topic. We'll talk Josh Allen real quick. Do you think the national media criticism is in his head a bit? Because I feel like such a strong arm guy had about 4 or 5 pretty serious underthrows yesterday, and
I don't think that was in
he's
his head. I just think he wasn't seeing things at the full NFL game speed yet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think he saw things
I
a
just want you to
second
thought-
behind what he should have.
I don't think that he knows where the ball is going all the time when it leaves his hand. I don't, and national media or not, that was one of the biggest criticisms of him is that his accuracy is not there. Like,
55%
it's awesome
yesterday.
Yeah, and that's, it's passable for now. He's if you're going to have a Cam Newton, percentage, and you're going to hover between 55 and 60%, you got to make sure that they count a little bit more, and he's going to have to do more in the running game. And he's never going to be that as dynamic an athlete as Cam Newton was. So he does have to get that figured out better. I mean, we saw him overthrow a couple open receivers on simple plays out to the flat, or short passing routes. He just doesn't seem to have the rhythm or the timing down with those.
Yeah, he needs to get control of that, especially since he's slinging the ball in on short passes, and he just needs to learn. Sometimes you just need a little touch.
Yeah. I'd like to see him also in a second game, where he's used to. It's not his first start. Get those jitters away. I did a best man speech this weekend, and I was nervous about that. I could imagine, really nervous. I could imagine about being a 24-year-old. But to start for national broadcast, I don't.
To me, in all sincerity, I don't have much in the way of expectations for the next 2 weeks. I think the first true test of, okay, this is a gate where we can determine, are we seeing something? Are there skills that are starting to develop here or not? Is week 5 at home against Tennessee, who to me is the first. Beatable team in the sense that I thought maybe they were going to be at least vaguely competitive against Baltimore, but that was Nathan Peterman starting. I mean, this would be, if everything goes to plan, Allen's 4th consecutive start. He's played 4.5 of the 5 games at that point. It's your second game at home, and it's going to be a major step down in competition from what you have played in your first 3 games.
I think it'll be fine once the game slows down for him. He mentioned himself in the Bengals game he started that it was a lot faster than he had thought or expected.
Yeah. Well, it's a big difference from it's not even just to make fun of the Mountain West, but college defenses don't have nearly the complexity of the NFL defenses. A lot of them don't have the personnel. Unless you're playing Alabama, they're not trotting out 11 NFL players.
Right, and I was going to say, he is not facing SEC he's not facing LSU and Auburn and Alabama every week. He was facing Hawaii and New Mexico and Utah State.
Colorado State.
And that's fine because he was a prospect more for the raw ability that he had. I don't think that the national media, I mean, if anything, I think the stuff that he was doing with Barstool and the like makes it seem like he had some level of self-awareness to what he was doing, and he knew going in that he was, and it's not even his fault that NFL types just fell in love with him because he had measurables. That's what NFL scouts do, but it's just I think what's frustrating for someone like myself is that you fall in love with the measurables more than what the results were on the field. And the results were he was honorable mention Mountain West, whereas you were passing on players that were Heisman Trophy winners or dynamic playmakers. I think that was what the big thing was. But I'm not worried about his mental makeup. I don't think anything's going to ever break him. I just don't know if he'll ever get there with the timing and the ability, the overall ability.
I think he's fine. I think just needs snaps, time. Yeah. He just needs time. I think he's gonna be very patient with him.
I'm just worried this fan base is going to compare him to Brady for the rest of his life. No matter, they're going to want him to be the best of the best, and he might end up being terrible. He might end up being below average. He might end up being just okay. If he's the 15th best quarterback in the NFL, that's still a win.
Well,
not as much as
not necessarily, because more than Tom Brady, who cares about Tom Brady? He's going to be compared to me. I'm going to compare Josh Allen to 5 guys: Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Josh Rosen, Lamar Jackson, and Patrick Mahomes. Those are the 5 guys that he's going to be compared to. I don't think it's too much of a stretch to compare him to those guys. I can understand why you say you can't compare him to Patrick Mahomes. I get that. It's fine. He was the pick that was part of the package that was used to get Josh Allen was a pick that the Kansas City Chiefs took to take Patrick Mahomes. So therefore, he's linked. It's not his fault. Again, none of this is his fault. But this is what it is. That it's going to be compared to that draft class. And if Mason Rudolph turns into something and chances
Rudolph
are
turns into something that every team can.
Mason Rudolph may be starting before Lamar Jackson. He may be starting before. I mean,
Rosen at this
Baker
point.
Mayfield. I don't know at this point, but those are Josh Allen's peers. So if Josh Allen is the 15th best quarterback in the league, but he's ranks 5th of those 6 guys, that will be frustrating because that means that you missed somewhere down the line in your evaluation when you realistically could have had 4 of those other quarterbacks available to you. It's just the reality of it.
Mahomes was so good yesterday.
Yeah,
makes me sad.
Incredible.
And but this isn't a situation where you want to try to bring up a quarterback. You really don't want to throw a guy into this situation.
It's always kind of a sorry. Go ahead.
There's no veteran leadership. There's nothing working around him. I mean, this is not a good situation for a quarterback.
This guy was against drafting quarterback this year. I know we had the high pick, and there are a lot of quarterback prospects, so it's a good year to do it. But I feel like when you draft a quarterback, you need to have a foundation first. It's like when you're buying a house. You want to buy a house with not a correct foundation.
And the thing is, at the draft, at that time we knew that Wood was not coming back.
Yeah,
none of the changes as far as players they didn't have were surprising.
Incognito was still in the air, but I think that at that point we knew he wasn't going to be brought back. The team wasn't going to have him back. So it's not like this should have been the offensive line problem should have been a surprise when they went out and did nothing. So this is a situation where it's really a no-win situation trying to put a young quarterback in.
And to the veteran leadership thing, like some of the most frustrating sights to me in that game on Sunday were the camera shots of Josh Allen on the sideline, sitting off by himself with the headset down, talking to Dabble. Mm-hmm. Like I want Dabble and a quarterback in his ear. Like why not put Matt Moore on the sideline? Let him run the offense in 2 weeks. It's better than put Peterman in the practice squad or just cut him. No one's going to pick him up and put him on the practice squad. You pick him back up.
I don't even think he's eligible to go on the practice squad.
Second year.
Second year. I wonder how many games it is that he can play in before he can go on.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Why not? Would you rather they compete on Matt Moore at this point? What have you seen on Peterman to make him keep him?
Oh, and I agree with
better
that.
draft
I would
pick.
put Matt Moore on the sideline. Just someone to talk to the guy, mentor him.
Yeah.
And if he gets hurt, Matt Moore's better than Nate Peterman. In my opinion. I just think I don't know what's going on. I hate the GM now. I don't know.
Just the quarterback moves are just, especially out of all of them, the quarterback moves are just baffling to me. Is a 5th-round pick for A.J. McCarron? I know we talked about it. I didn't really think about the consequences when we talked about it before the season. It's like, you got a 5th-round pick for him, hey!
Well, and now the concern is like, okay, you're going to have, right now, as it stands right now, the Bills have 10 picks in the draft next year because they have the Chiefs 4th, they have the Raiders 5th, and they have the Chargers 7th. That's from the Cardale Jones trade, by the way. And then they're going to have all this cap space now, somewhere in the range of like $90 million. Do you have the confidence right now that the team will make the correct decisions when it comes to free agency and will make the correct decisions when it comes to the draft? The draft, maybe. I don't think they're going to... there's nothing that's proven to me right now that they're going to be doing the free agency correct.
Yeah, right now free agency this year was a cluster.
And we knew it was going to be bad. We knew that there wasn't going to be much space. This was intentionally done. I get that. But you got Star Lotulelei is the best pickup right now. And I understand that he hasn't made a tackle yet, and that's not his job. And let's hope that he goes the entire season without making a tackle. I think that would be pretty cool.
I would love to have this conversation after week 7. See when
absolutely
he has 0 tackles.
Justify
Amazing.
Jeff's argument, and I think that would be great. And then everybody else around him just gets that many more tackles. He's so selfless, like a troop. But it just doesn't make sense to me. The misses, the cuts. You could have had supplemental draft picks that you passed on because you signed these guys, and it just, we'll see. But I wish somebody would just stop playing dumb with me and just say this is a rebuilding year and we're just trying to see what we have in our
The alternative is that they don't know what they're doing,
which
either of them is
sometimes it feels like it's that too. So I don't know, man.
Sean McDermott, please clap.
Do you think they have a hero complex after last year?
I think I legitimately don't know how to explain how they've fallen off this much to the fan
they
base.
came in and they're crazy crap worked, and like, oh god, we did whatever we want to. It looked great.
Nothing will be worse than somebody describing themselves as a saint in the facility. So I'm not sure if God complex or the sainthood
Which
complex
is why we had to
where
let
it's
Nathaniel Hackett and Russ Brandon go after they called themselves saints.
See, though, this is one of the things I worried about at the end of last year. Is if the Bills made the playoffs, would they be a little too complacent in the moves that they made? And they made some crazy moves. They didn't do anything.
They weren't
really
complacent. I don't know if
they
that's
weren't
the right
complacent,
word,
but
yeah.
they just went and did some crazy things.
They did the exact same thing they did last year. It just didn't work twice because it arguably shouldn't have worked the first time.
The team management overall it's been poor. And look, these guys are the first time in these positions, and that's great, but there's other GMs and other coaches that are doing really well.
It's weird.
You could have John Lynch and
Kyle Shanahan,
like that brain trust.
It's weird because I feel like the defense was mostly intact from last year. You lost Preston Brown and the quarterback who was injured all the time, and you added talent on the D line. You drafted a physical specimen in Tremaine Edmonds, and your safeties are there. Trey White's still there.
I think Bill explained it best in his preseason summary of what the defense was going to be. So in a lot of games last season, they got lucky turnovers, and sometimes those bounces don't go that way. If they get one nice lucky bounce in the first half yesterday, that instead of a touchdown drive for San Diego was a pick six, that game turns around real quick. And they were getting those bounces last year. They haven't gotten them through 2 weeks.
Haven't happened yet. And you can't teach turnovers. You can't coach turnovers. You can try, but ultimately you're going to be chasing something that is just not consistent over game to game. You will have hot streaks. You will have cold streaks. They will all sort of come to a spot in the end, but you can't just bank on it.
But what you can do is you can work on these guys getting some sort of pass rush. The
Right.
first half, Rivers was comfortable in the pocket.
You can scheme and you can run different ideas.
You can help yourself out in other ways.
Yes, I agree with that. I think that the turnovers are a result of that, but they're also unpredictable. Like there's just no way to predict. So,
and if they're stuck out there for a long period of time because the offense took 6 quarters to wake up, it's
then you're
tough to do.
Then the
pass rush
to be fair, the
tired
defense, their starting position was brutal, and they had no chance. So, real quick, predictions for this.
Do we have to
bludgeoning? I mean, let's just put them on the record. We have Bills at Vikings, 1:00 on
Minnesota's
Sunday.
a 17-point favorite at home. They just tied a game they should have won easily in overtime, and they are mad about it.
Does anybody think it's kind of odd that there's been 2 ties already this season?
It's the first time it's happened in the NFL since they added overtime that there's been ties in the first 2 weeks of the season.
With like weird division rivals that, I think Minnesota came in thinking that they were going to be not even seeing Aaron Rodgers, and then the dynamics of that changed. You had that terrible weather for the Steelers-Browns game, and now both of those teams lose in incredible fashion in week 2. So now, I don't know what Vikings have some of the most dynamic players in the league on both offense and defense. The offense looks about one step above where it was. I think the offense seems to be fine. They have 2 of the best, 12 receivers in the game, in Thielen and Diggs.
And one of the best areas, amazing. The entire team is just built to
There's
succeed.
no way that defense is going to stop Thielen and Diggs.
Right.
However,
But only one.
there are 2 of them.
Unless they just decide to run fly routes next week. No.
No, you're right about that. That
Yeah,
would be very terrible.
Just
coaching.
line them up each behind them. Just run as fast as you can. Look, it's not going to be pretty. I'm thinking it's going to be something in the range of like 38-13.
Yeah, I was just thinking 40-10.
Enough.
Bills don't cover a 17-point spread. It's going to feel real sad.
It seems difficult for them. Josh Allen's he's not prepared for this.
I think he gets a late touchdown.
That's fine.
I do
He
think
can
that
have-
the Vikings take the foot off the gas.
Sure.
Second half, they can come around a little bit, but it won't mean anything.
But in the first half,
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
gonna
see
be
how
45-14
Yeah, I just
Minnesota.
don't
Like,
see
how
it's
does he
gonna
go from this game and try to read Harrison Smith and Xavier Rhodes?
You can't. That's like jumping from first year algebra to trig.
Yeah.
Like it's just they're not even related to each other, and you're
Can I ask a dumb question that's only going to prolong this podcast by far more time than we want to go for it?
you want who the Bills draft
Josh Allen didn't throw for 300 yards yesterday. Does that make his game a failure?
by 20.
Feel after criticizing the Bills for benching Tyrod and trading him.
I want
It's
to
amazing.
Okay, I want to know, and their conclusion is this is Tyrod Taylor's fault. They're absolute fucking morons.
Maybe they should have a kicker with
Goal after he missed the extra point after Tyrod on fourth down from the opposing 40s.
the narrative on Baker Mayfield in the sense that it already appears that if they lose this game on Thursday, by the way, Jets Browns, that's an NFL Network
That'll put
exclusive
butts in
here
seats.
on Thursday, if in case you're interested in self-mutilation. They look, the Bills are playing the Patriots at home on Monday night. I'm not here to throw stones at glass houses.
I'm already
okay,
saving
but
money for the beer that we'll need to watch this game here together.
I'm going to that game.
Oh, God bless.
I'll do a live report.
Please report from your car driving home.
Yeah. Well, it's 9:30. The Patriots are up 35-0.
We're just going to get a Bill call at the end of every quarter.
Gronk just was literally fucking the goalposts, like just having a great
He
time.
gave it the 3 pump and got 15.
I don't even remember what I was saying. Oh, so national narrative on that. Like, if you take a quarterback overall number one and he's probably equal or better than the quarterback that he's sitting in front of, you should probably just play him.
Do you think that Baker is ready at this point? Do you think there's a benefit to playing Baker now and not letting him get more accustomed to the offense? Realizing that the Browns season is not going to turn around where they're going to be 14-1-1.
Right. I think in the next 2 to 3 weeks they should just put Baker Mayfield in.
I think they very well will. I just hate the fact that they watch the Browns lose a game. It's like, well, Tyrod sucks. He was the 5th or 6th worst thing about that offense, and the 10th or 11th worst team about the team.
I understand that. And I will, I'm a Tyrod guy. I think that's not a,
I'm just saying, Baker. You hope that Baker in that situation that Tyrod got him out of does the same thing, and it wouldn't have mattered if it was Baker or Tyrod because the defense and the kicking blew that game.
Mayfield I think he's got a little something extra in there.
I think he does too. I think long term he's obviously the answer.
Yeah, this is a 1 year thing for Taylor, but
I just maybe I'm gun shy after the Bills rushing Tyrod in. I just hate the concept of rushing a quarterback when you don't have to, unless they feel that he is 100% ready and sees things at full game speed.
The problem is that we all knew that ultimately Josh Allen was probably better than Nathan Peterman, so they at least came to that conclusion. I mean, I don't know yet if Josh Rosen's better than Sam Bradford, but they're getting
better than
real
whoever
close.
trotted on the field for Arizona last week.
They're getting close to that. And then this Joe Flacco is probably better than that Lamar Jackson currently. Obviously, Roethlisberger is better than Rudolph, and Darnold won the starting job. So I think all the quarterbacks are basically positioned, except for maybe in Cleveland, where maybe the more talented guy is sitting right now.
And final parting question. Ryan Fitzpatrick's post-game outfit, the greatest of all time or the greatest of all time?
It was actually Deshaun Jackson.
Deshaun Jackson's tracksuit. They asked Ryan if anything was his. He said just the chest hair.
that's amazing.
He's pretty damn likable, isn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to dislike him. We remember that bad contract extension, maybe a little overpaid a little early, but it's genuinely difficult to
Not his
dislike
fault,
Ryan
man.
Fitzpatrick.
Not his fault. I think he's a goofy dude that ended up getting paid more than a lot of his cronies from Harvard on Wall Street.
I'm just saying,
but
and
it took him a long time.
I know we
to
make
get
fun of it
that
a
far.
lot, but as a NFC Bucks fan, it's the most fun it's ever been to watch that team since they won the Super Bowl. With Ryan Fitzpatrick just out there slinging bombs to Mike Evans and Deshaun Jackson, it's been unbelievably fun.
Big supporter of Fitzy, the T.O.
Oh yeah,
T.O. says he's one of the best quarterbacks he played with.
T.O. loved him.
Backed him up on Twitter yesterday, saying the same thing.
Dirk Ketter today would not confirm he will be starting Jameis Winston week 4.
Can you?
Fitzpatrick has the Steelers next Monday night. It's the last game before
Which-
Jameis will be eligible. And the
that-
Steelers defense just got run over by Kansas City for 4 quarters.
That Monday night game next week is maybe the most intriguing game of the entire season so far, because I don't believe that either team is what they've shown so far, but I have a feeling that both teams are just going to continue down the path that they've given us. And to think of a 3-0 Tampa Bay team and an 0-2-1 Steelers team this year just blows my mind.
It would feel,
But it seems
as
very
a
much
Bills
on
fan,
the table.
sitting here next Monday, if we watch Ryan Fitzpatrick go for 404 touchdowns for the 3rd straight week. He's the first quarterback ever to go for 404 touchdowns in the first 2 games of the season.
It's awesome, man.
If he does it for a
He
3rd
looks
week
great.
against Pittsburgh, There's people, the rumblings of Steelers Twitter about starting to move on from Big Ben are starting to grow because they haven't had immediate success. What's this? Hold on. Another Tyrod.
Another guy called the Bills dumb, saying they got to start Baker.
This is Benjamin Albright of NFL Network, NFL.com, saying, quote, Tyrod Taylor's throwing 52% passing with 2 TDs. In 2 TDs in 2 games. I get you're trying to make sure the rookie is ready, but you're wasting a very good defense in the season. You've already shown to be competitive. Start
with 2
considering
TDs
Baker.
That's a poorly worded tweet.
I think he means...
He says he's got 2 touchdowns,
IMGs.
and that's 2 touchdowns in 2
This is
games.
one of the guys calling the Bills dumb all off season. 2 games in.
But it is. I think it's apples and oranges in the sense that
the Bills weren't holding anyone back for
Todd McShay said the same thing. I think the belief there is that if you have the better quarterback, play the better quarterback. So it is, I think, a little bit different with what the Bills had or have compared to what a lot of people think Cleveland has.
Yeah. Tyrod versus Peterman's a lot different than Tyrod versus Baker Mayfield.
I would tend to
even though I think that at this point, until the Browns are kind of willing to accept defeat in the season, and if they lose to the Jets Thursday, it might be then, it might be in 2 weeks, it might be on their bye week, which I don't even know what it is because it's the Browns. But I feel it's more likely than not, unless they really start going, that we will see Baker Mayfield for an extended portion of this season when they feel he's fully ready. And God bless Hugh Jackson. I hope he knows when that is.
Mm-hmm.
That defense is good in Cleveland, I feel like.
Yeah, there's a lot there. But I can't take that coaching staff seriously. He's literally won 32-1.
I feel like at some point this season, Jackson's fired, and Greg takes over.
Him and Todd Haley just have to have a death match to find out.
I was going to say,
they hate the shit out of each other. Those guys do. That's what I learned. The only thing I learned on Hard Knocks is that those guys actually want to murder each other in a back alley.
They don't seem like the closest friends.
No. Anyway, guys, anything else you want to tack onto this one? We have droned on here for a while. Anything else you want to talk about? Sabres are back tonight.
Yeah, they won 4-1.
Preseason hockey, folks.
They won 4-1.
It means we're close. We're only a couple weeks away from your regularly scheduled professional hockey season where we can all forget about the Bills a little bit and enjoy Jack Eichel.
I watched a good amount of it, the game tonight. It's preseason, but Nyland's looked pretty good.
Two dimes?
He looked confident. 2 assists. One assist to Berglund. The first goal was a filthy pass.
I hope he's turning the corner. I think he's getting somewhere. If he plays with that level of confidence, there's definitely talent there.
Like right now, with Sam Reinhart unsigned, it's a spot for him.
And
if he keeps playing well, he's going to make Samson available.
They got him.
That's a nice trade.
Well, but they got to do something with him. Like, you can't
do nothing.
Yeah, something has to happen.
With
bridge deal,
yes.
Bridge deals have been out there. So
there was one sign.
If your goal is to trade Sam Reinhart to bring up Alex Nylander, that seems like you're not going about it the right way to me. I think that there is space for both of those guys.
I don't think it's a plan. I just think it could work out that way. I don't know what's the hold up here. It's crazy.
It is a little odd that there hasn't even been like an arbitration or something that's kind of pushed someone one way or the other. We're just in a holding pattern waiting for just in a holding pattern waiting for someone to either offer more money or accept less money theoretically, and I don't think either side's willing to budge.
I don't think Sam Reinhart has literally zero leverage either. It's like,
how much of it do you think? I don't know NHL agents very well, but how much of it's Sam and how much of it is whoever's representing him? Okay. Sam personally probably doesn't have
I think at some point, if you're representing the kid, you got to say, okay, look, you got to play this year.
Yeah.
And then everything will come into place.
Hopefully getting close to that point.
Right.
Well, you asked, it's hard to say how much of it's Sam. Remember when Risto was going through his contract thing and he wasn't signed to start training camp? But he wanted to be out there, and he was out there. Remember that?
Yep.
And he got signed a couple days later.
That kid's looking real jack, baby.
Yeah, but it's not going to make him better on the ice and mentally.
Maybe not having to play 40 minutes a night will make him better on the ice.
That would be good.
Got to keep open those minutes. Eventually, he'll become NHL's first 60-minute man.
He's pretty jacked, though.
This guy happened.
Risto and Darlene, followed by Risto and Bogosian, followed by Risto and Scandella.
Being physically fit was never his issue. It's just consistency in decision making. So if going to the gym makes that better, then he's in great shape. But it's not, unfortunately. So
Maybe he's got like a Lumosity subscription or something.
He's running the treadmill and doing some Sudoku.
Speaking of Lumosity, tonight's podcast is brought. Yeah, well, let's hope that the Sabres, just for ease of everybody's mind, I think everybody would appreciate it if there was just get Reinhardt in somehow, even if it's on a 1 or 2. Like, just get that 2-year bridge done.
And if they want to get him on a 1-year bridge and move him at the deadline, then get something for him. At least let him show that he deserves to be here or not.
Remember in 2015 when we thought like Reinhardt and Eichel would be signing matching deals?
Yeah.
That went awry.
Well, I feel
that
like
draft class might have been bad.
The Reinhardt?
Yeah.
It's
minus Ekblad.
It's Ekblad.
It's Ekblad and company.
Yeah.
Ekblad's good, though.
Ekblad's good. That's it.
But yeah, I mean, that again, it's just...
Someone's going to correct me on Twitter because I probably forgot some guy who was drafted like 15 or something.
Nylander or Marner.
Oh, there we go. I'm already fucking up.
No, it was a bad overall draft because the Sams...
It was Bennett and Reinhardt.
Yeah. So, Ekblad... Oh, Dylan
Isn't
Larkin.
that also,
Dylan Larkin was in 15.
Dylan Larkin's okay.
Those are the only 2 guys that have made an All-Star appearance at this point.
That's not Draisaitl's draft class as well?
Draisaitl hasn't been super great either.
Yeah.
Well, true.
But yes, that was his. Other than that, scrolling through here real quick.
William Nylander, but he's about to try to make a bunch of money and not get it.
Braden Point was in that draft.
Jacob Verana.
In the 3rd round. Point is, not a great draft. So yeah.
But second best player in that draft, we ought to scroll pretty far. It's probably David Pastrnak.
So you're looking. That's what you're dealing with at this point. Pretty bad draft.
Yeah.
Sign Sam.
Please.
Make it happen, Kevin.
That was the draft we took Brendan Lemieux in the 2nd round.
Ugh.
Classic.
Well,
anyway, thank you all for listening.
It's about time
when
we
the
hit that
Bills
old
get
dusty
their
trail.
teeth kicked down their throat by Minnesota, we'll be back here next Monday on the heels of Justin's wedding. We'll all be super hungover and very tired.
You'll have a recovery day.
I don't see your point.
I'm gonna have an issue with Bill. He's an old man, so. But you're a year older than me, right?
I'm 33.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I'm
for those of you who are
I'm
going to
older
tune
than all
into
of you.
You
the
drink a lot of coconut water, so but you don't drink.
I'm super hydrated.
True.
we're returning to the UB hockey broadcasts this weekend when they open home play.
I won't be there.
Yeah, I'll be calling the game Sunday afternoon. You want to listen to a hungover guy solo call a hockey game, you can find it on Hockey TV, myhockeytv.com for
Sure
your listening pleasure.
Team appreciates that. And we'll good luck getting married, man.
Bill and I will be live tweeting the entire wedding at 716 Sport Podcast.
You should definitely tweet.
No,
100% actually.
No, I think we actually are. I mean, we both have the passwords. We can do whatever we want with it.
Yeah.
You're going to be pretty preoccupied.
The 716 Marriage Podcast.
Making sure everybody likes their chicken, that dried out chicken shit. Because like every wedding
No
has...
chicken.
Oh, there isn't?
No.
Oh, you're doing stations, right?
Yes.
Roast beef?
No.
Hummus.
No. You'll see, dude. You'll be there.
Chickpea hummus. Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be drinking. We'll be Ubering home. It'll be wonderful. Speaking of Uber, tonight's podcast. All right, good night.